Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Tracy. I see your smiling face there. So Tracy is our guest speaker for this morning, and Tracy is a graduate of Eastern Michigan University. And professionally, she retired semi-recently, Tracy, you can tell us, as a supervisor for Mayberry State Park with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. After a long and distinguished career in public sector administration at the state and municipal levels, including as director of Northville Parks and Recreation. And as we all know, Tracy was district governor for District 6400 at 2223. She's been a proud Rotarian for over 30 years, so much like Ilias here. With her Rotary expertise, along with her exemplary skills in nonprofit best practices, community development, event management, fundraising, and marketing, we are thrilled to have Tracy attend with us today via Zoom to share some helpful information about Rotary branding. Take it away, Tracy.
Thank you, Deb, and thank you, Presidents Monique and Terry. It is exciting to see you all again, even though the camera doesn't face you, but I'm happy to be here, and certainly on behalf of Governor Nick and the entire District 6400 Council of Governors, I bring you greetings from the district and look forward to seeing many of you at the upcoming district conference at the end of May, beginning of June. As you all know, District Governor Nick had some initiatives for this Rotary year, and one of those initiatives was to bring information to each of our clubs about public image, the Rotary Foundation, and membership. And so today's presentation is a portion of the public image and branding and why it's so important in our Rotary lives and can carry over into our professional lives. And speaking of that, Deb mentioned about my retirement. Well, I stayed retired for 11 months, but I found I wasn't as connected as I wanted to be. So in January, I returned very part-time to the working world, and I'm now managing the Northville Historical Society. They operate a small historic village within the city of Northville, sort of like Greenfield Village, if you have been to that in Dearborn here. It's a very miniature version of that, but preserving the community history is important, and work with a great group of volunteers and part-time staff. So I'm dabbling again in the working world, but certainly scaled way back. So got lots of time for Rotary things. So thank you again. I'd like to make this presentation as interactive as I can. So we'll do the best we can with, let's see, I want to do this one. We'll do the best we can with trying to get you to join in as best you can. So unmute yourself and answer questions that I'm asking you, and we'll make this as interactive as we can on Zoom. So I'm assuming you can see my screen because it looks like it's there for me. Can I just let me know? Yes, you're good?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, good. This is an older picture that I grabbed of you, and sorry for the mushy thing. Paul and Phyllis are probably horrified when I show them a mush picture, but I wanted to show you how important this club is to our district. And when you serve as district governor, you get to visit all clubs and get to their unique identity and their unique brand. And the one word, there's many words I would use to describe your club other than engaged, but I think environment is certainly a strong identity that you have here. And when I've shared your story many times about all the initiatives and efforts that you have done. So please know that even though your governor year ends, what you do and how you impacted me when I was visiting clubs carries on forever. So let's get going. So we've got the now areas of focus that Rotary is using to create identity within the Rotary world. And you can see the symbols for each of those. So if you can unmute yourself and share with the club and share with me, if you can just shout out, what are the benefits that we all gain when Rotary's branding is used in a consistent way? Can anybody give me some examples of those benefits? Don't be shy.
attract new members.
Yep, and it's hard for me to hear because you're not at a microphone, but that's okay. So certainly maternal and child health, literacy, environment, peace, health, and you can see that those symbols are very identifiable. So anybody else have a benefit they want to share?
Become more consistent to the community. People get to know you through your messaging, through your brand.
Exactly. Okay.
Tracy?
Yes.
So are you saying like if we send out a picture on our social media that we should be using one of those symbols?
Well, if it refers
If
to
it's a-
that,
a-
if it,
a-
if it's applicable, but certainly your club logo with, the words Windsor St. Clair.
Yeah, we do that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But if
Okay.
you're doing, so for example, if you're doing an environmental thing, maybe the environmental symbol could be a watermark in the back of the document, for example. It just gets people can identify, oh, that means environment. Oh, that means peace. Oh, that means health, sort of thing. But
Okay, thanks.
certainly I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, especially with Phyllis and Paul, because this is their life. But the power of consistency with branding, it consistently shows who we are and who we are as Rotarians, who we are as a club, who we are as a district, who we are as a part of Rotary International. And every time we use a brand it just helps us develop better relationships with the media. It sets us apart from maybe another nonprofit or another service organization. And that consistent message makes us more credible to our community, to our world, our work world. And this is partly the reason why Rotary International has stopped having logos and messaging and what's the word I want to use? The message every year, where we used to have every year the president would select an identity and a brand and a focus, and they found that it was confusing people because this year we're talking about Imagine, and this year we're talking about doing good in the world, and this year we're talking about different things. So there will always be a message, like this next coming year is unite for good. And so there's a message, but it's not the theme that carries through with logo wear and scarves and, that kind of thing. So Rotary will always have the consistent branding, but the message is a little bit more scaled back. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So, and if you could unmute yourself and tell me, I mean, I have a little bit of a sense, but there are so many ways now to communicate our message and our success stories in the world. I know you're using Facebook. Is there anything else that you guys are using consistently to share your stories and your messaging? Anything out there? Unmute and shout it out.
Oh, Irene?
I think Irene's gone, but no, Facebook's it.
Okay.
No, we used Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, we just recently opened an Instagram account.
Okay. I have to be honest, I don't know what half of these symbols mean, but I do know that depending on your generation, that you tend to use different media than maybe someone of my generation. It was suggested to me that TikTok is the new way to get things out, from a video messaging. I haven't ventured in there. I don't have a TikTok account, but maybe some of you do.
Well, our club doesn't.
Yeah. I have seen some use of LinkedIn. We tend to think of LinkedIn as more of a business sort of app, but I have seen some Rotary things on there. So you can think about that. WhatsApp is used for communication, and I communicate with WhatsApp on people in my Rotary world that maybe live in a different country because it's a free tool to communicate. But there are so many, I guess I'm my message is that there are so many different vehicles for sharing messaging. And if you find someone that is really good at others of these, don't be shy about jumping into that world, especially if we're trying to reach different audiences.
We have posted video on YouTube as well, Tracy.
There you go. You have your own YouTube channel.
It's not really a channel, but we have recorded videos. And,
Okay.
and
Probably Paul
I've just
jumping
been a
into the
little
water
slow in
with
getting
the
them
bear
out
punch.
lately, but yeah, we record them, and they're great to link in with other, I guess, other social media like Facebook and Instagram. You can always link in a video, and then that gets that connection there.
Great. Thanks, Bill. Anybody else? Okay.
I've got one sort of question that I was trying to bring up to Monique. Right now, we're in a very new spot that we finally called it home. We've visited a couple times,
Mhm.
so we need to know. Walk this way.
We don't want to see you.
I know. So, being that we're in a new place and there's a Wi-Fi connection and stuff, what's the password for here so we can all get it on here and we can fit each other's communication, because we don't have that yet. And I do believe, I don't know if that's what you said, Bill, because I was in the middle of asking myself this question. You post these recorded ones on YouTube, right?
What I do is I take the YouTube videos and trim off the uncomfortable stuff, and then
Like when
what
Deb
I'll
bent
do
over
is
to look at the picture today?
then I'll send the links to everybody.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Yep.
so anyway, the Wi-Fi password, if maybe Terry can share it by the time the end of the meeting comes. You know me, I have to interrupt with something, Tracy,
Yes.
sorry.
Of course, consistent messaging.
I'm very consistent.
Yes, yes. Thanks, guys. So public perception is part of membership as well. And we've had lots of discussions about your club experiences and how you organize your meetings and make people feel welcome when they're visiting. But your projects also have a lot to do with how you are perceived in the community. And I'll use that Monarch Train initiative from a few years ago. That was a huge public image opportunity, and it still resonates with me. You know, how organized it was and what an impact. And you brought in speakers from all over the world, Mexico, and it was a huge opening for you in the community to get people maybe that didn't know what Rotary did. And so that experience, I think, was a great example of how you were able to connect with the community. Sharing our stories. I know we're going to hear a lot about that from Governor-elect Linda, about sharing your stories, because that's going to be her messaging. But I want to tell you a brief story about how this public image really is important. Last fall, Paul and I had the opportunity to visit France for a few days. And while we were there, we got to go to a Rotary meeting, and it was really fun. And we got to connect with some French Rotarians. But on the way home, we were on our flight, and I'm napping because I tend to do that. Paul is on the other side of the aisle, but he's on the aisle. And the flight, he had a Rotary golf shirt on, and this flight attendant came up to him and said, "I see you have a Rotary shirt on. Are you an active member of Rotary?" And he said, "Yeah, I am. I live in the States." And she was American. And she said, "Are you happen to be involved in youth exchange?" And he said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I'm very involved in youth exchange. My wife and I have hosted, and I have a leadership level." And she said, "Well, I was a youth exchange student from my club in the US to France." She didn't give us a year. And she said, and Paul said, "Oh, my wife's club is hosting a student from France this year. What city?" And she said, Annecy, which is over by the Swiss border. That's the same club my club is hosting a student from this year. And so she went back and she gave us her business card with her personal cell number and her personal email and said, "Give this card to your student. And if they have any questions, anything I can help them with, please do." he wore a Rotary shirt, and that opened up a conversation. And it just is an example of sharing one brand, one shirt opened up a story that we had a bond with this flight attendant. We got free drinks anyway, so it wasn't like a big deal. But that visual identity, that logo, made an impact. So don't forget, when you're going on vacation, pack a Rotary shirt in there. You never know where those stories, what stories you might be able to create by that. But again, public perception is created by how we conduct ourselves at events, at our club level. You're certainly your Art in the Park initiative. I wrote that down because I want to make sure I come this year. So anyway, just one example of how visual identity can bring some stories to us. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Rotary Brand Center that is on the website. If you have not familiarized yourself with that, please do. You can get templates, free templates for flyers, for presentations, for newsletters. You can, it's already been, the brand has already been vetted. So all you have to do is drop in your pictures and your words, and it's free to you. If you need a custom club logo, you can get those images there as well. You have Paul and Phyllis, the brand kings and queens of our district, so that helps a lot too. But you can get resources for creating images and videos that you might use for your YouTube. They're downloadable. You don't have to figure out how to recreate the wheel or have a multitude of graphic design software. You can just do this free through the Rotary Brand Center. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. And again, it helps with the consistency as well. Any questions about that? Okay. We've talked a lot about over the years about, how Rotary is, our images have changed over the year. They did a lot of studies to try to figure out what resonates with people. And, we went away from just the wheel with the keyhole in it to now we have the words Rotary with the logo and then our name of our club underneath it. So some people are still using old imaging, and it's, we forget about it. We have signage all over our communities that are old brands, and to the extent we can afford it and have the resources to do that, we should try to update over time those images. Colors have been vetted. Rotary has specific colors for different things. And, Liz Smith in our district, she kind of calls herself the public image police, so that we are trying to use consistent branding. So just be aware that, we might have some holdovers on our websites and some of our old flyers. So to the extent we can update those, please consider doing that to just, again, makes it a consistency for us. Any questions about that, or any questions about how to do that? Okay. Again, back to the stories. You're gonna hear a lot about this from Linda coming up in this year, but you all have stories. I know you all have stories. The ones of your club I know well. I mean, Deb has got millions of stories about the impact of the environment, and all the stories you're going to continue to develop by your projects. Tell those stories to people in your neighborhood and in your houses of worship. And, you never know where your story might resonate with someone. Your workplaces. Paul and Phyllis and Carlo have tons of stories about youth exchange, as we all do. So again, the stories are how we engage with people. So think about how, maybe come up with just a couple of things about when you're wearing your Rotary shirt or your Rotary pin and people say, "What's Rotary?" You can have a story about what Rotary means to you and why it's important. So be thinking about those all the time. Just have a couple of those in your back pocket and be able to tell the stories. And, Jen Jones is obviously the master of the storytellers. And, even though we have heard some of her stories multiple times, they still resonate with you. You know, she tells the story about being in the operating room and watching this young infant being brought back to life when she had a surgery to repair a hole in her heart. I still cry when I hear that story. So our stories can make people cry too and touch them deeply. So think about stories. Anybody have a story, a quick story that they want to share that makes sense and make people cry?
We have one.
Yes.
Just a quick thing about branding. We had a place in Florida for probably 14 years. And so as we were driving down the street to go into our driveway, our next door neighbor, it was recycling day. And they had a recycling bin with Rotary International on it. So it was great. I just go knock on their door and it was like opened. So he says, oh yeah, our meetings are such and such a day at noon, come. And so I started going to the Rotary meetings down there. And I would never have known except for recycling. A lot of pizza boxes and empty beer cans.
Not that you're judging your neighbors, but yeah. See, that is a great example. Thanks for sharing that. We have all seen this advertisement. It has been on billboards, it's been in magazines, and this is a person of our own district from the Detroit Club. So Rotary is really working on the people of action messaging, you know, using real life projects to demonstrate the work of Rotary. So don't be afraid, and you can use these templates in the brand center to create your own imaging. So if you have opportunity, put one of your club activities up there, and there's, again, you can grab the brand from the brand center and use these ads. So don't be afraid to do that. You know, we've talked a lot about this during the membership modules, but you know, we have to continually talk about what misconceptions are out there. I think we're making good progress with that. You know, I know in the community, and you know, the Windsor community is blessed with so many different opportunities for Rotary. You know, I always tell people the whole Windsor community. I mean, Detroit, we have 2. You have now, what do you have, 7 now? 7 clubs in the greater Windsor area. That's just amazing. So I think you're certainly, you've done a great job of addressing what people think of Rotary, and they're thinking about it correctly. But just be aware that some people out there still look at us differently in what we maybe used to be. So continue those efforts to address public misconceptions, because it really does help us grow and expand our reach. Here's our youth exchange picture. I always have to include that in here. Does your club have a public image committee or chairperson? Just shout out yes or no.
Yeah,
Okay. Is it
Paul and
is it-
Phyllis.
Okay, Paul and Phyllis, of course.
And Irene.
Also Irene as well.
Yeah. Is it active? Do you, you know, do you continually work on your brand and your stories and those kinds of things? I'm sure that you do, knowing you.
Yeah,
But
Irene sends out stuff whenever we have an event or something's
okay.
going on.
That's great. You'd be surprised how many clubs do not address this. And once they do, it really bolsters their identity and their connection to their community. So good job on building your public image and being consistent and keeping all of those things up. I mean, you know, we're all volunteers. It takes some time to do that, but it really does pay off in the long run. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and if we could, I'm just going to quickly wrap this up, but I'd like to hear, if possible, a story of how your public image has paid off. Can somebody quickly give me a quick story? Paul, Phyllis, Irene, anybody? Oh, Irene's gone, but.
Well, if it was directly connected to, years ago, we used to have a place on the lake, and there was nuns that lived not too far away, and they'd come walking by, and they were there on the weekends. And so we talked to them, and they were retired teachers. And so what they did now, they tutored in the poorest zip code in Michigan. And so we're just talking. So I contacted Trey Green from Detroit and got them connected. And that Detroit Rotary Club did a library for, and so that's the connection, you know, of Rotary, what it can do. It was really a great feeling to do that. But it had nothing to do with me. It had just connected them to.
You were the connector. You were the link.
Yeah, but it was, they did it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway.
I think it's difficult to measure exactly how it's paying off. But my sense is that especially this year with all the activity that we've had around our lead up to our 50th anniversary, where we have regular posts going out once a month, highlighting our service projects, I think we're seeing a lot more awareness in the community about Rotary in general, and more specifically about Windsor St. Clair. So it's hard, but again, it's just hard to say, you know, how that is paying off.
Yeah, some of these things are hard to measure, but you can still get a sense of, oh gosh, I'm hearing more people, you know, they either open our pages or like our pages, you know, on social media, or they maybe you're seeing an increase in some of your volunteers for your projects. So, and congratulations on the 50 years, by the way. Anyway, yeah. So, you know, I think your gut is telling you that the effort is paying off, and it's work. It's, you know, but
And it's
thanks for
looking
doing
good
that.
too. I think Irene's done a wonderful job of being consistent with the posts, which has really helped.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention, Tracy, you touched on it quite a bit there about the brand center, the RI brand center. Even though you're really not, even though you're not involved in branding or a part of the branding for the club, I recommend that everybody go on to the RI site, to the brand center, and just have a look. Like, there's a ton of information there, and it really does help. Like, watch some of the videos, look at some of the pictures, and there's a lot of Rotary stuff there that just sort of makes you feel good. So it's worth the 15 minutes to go do it if you've got, you know, some time to kill and you want something to do.
Yeah, and Rotary, you know, Rotary is really up their game in terms of helping clubs with these kinds of resources. They won't get into the whole offerings, but, you know, if you ever need a meeting filler because your speaker didn't show up, or you just were struggling to find something relevant to share with your members, you can pull those videos from the brand center and from Rotary as a filler in for a meeting, and they're well done. They're impactful, and they're emotional. Phyllis.
Talking about connections, during this year, we committed to do 12 months of service. So every month we're doing a different service project. And it's a lot of work. It's just been a lot of work, but it's connecting our members too, because without service, you're not really connecting. We just, on Friday night, we were at Monique's house, and we were building bags, because we didn't use baskets. We wanted something reusable for the moms. We did mom baby kits to hand to Our Lady of Guadalupe home. They bring in moms who are going to have babies that can't afford to start up on their own, and each mom is going to be giving one of these kits. We had so much fun packing those bags. And how many of us were there? 15-ish. And it became a social, but we connected, and we all left laughing, and we did something good for 2 hours.
I saw your social media post. That was terrific. What a terrific idea.
What you didn't see were the glasses of wine that were.
That's okay. That's okay. So, does anybody have any questions for me? That's pretty much, I'm not the expert by any means, but I think you guys do a terrific job.
All right. And I promise I won't bend over this time because apparently that's a really major faux pas. Well, okay. I think the branding is really important, and I think the casual branding that we do is equally important in terms of telling our stories. And I just grabbed this sheet, and this was from District Assembly. And for those of you that weren't able to make it, there was a terrific speaker at the very end that I attended, and it's called "Sharing the Rotary Story with Impact," and that was Renee Yancey.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing speaker she is. Holy cow. And as I'm sitting listening to her talk and just how stories she's coming up with and the way she's introducing things and talking within the group, I thought, I want to be like her. Like, she was just so amazing. And anyway, she is going to be at district conference. So for people who are going to district conference, she's going to be there as well. And I'm certainly going to make sure that I'm attending that session because she's amazing in terms of her storytelling. And of course, we all know Jen Jones is an amazing storyteller, but Nick has come along in his storytelling as well, which is awesome. But I want to thank you so much because I think this is a really important topic for us. We all share our stories. And so if we share a little bit more of our Rotary stories, I think that's impactful. And there's always people that are amazed when they hear what we do. And so I thank you for bringing this really important topic up to our club this morning. And with our guest speakers, it's so funny because when you were talking, and that's the beauty of Zoom, I kept wanting to look up here, assuming that you were here, and then I'd have to remember, oh, you're over
She's
there.
not there. Yeah.
But we've come a long way in terms of our communication in that regard. And WhatsApp that you mentioned earlier is an amazing, I communicate back and forth with people in Cozumel that we met when we were on our Rotary cruise last year. So we normally give our guests a jar of our locally produced honey, which I don't know if you can see that. So we'll give that to you probably at district conference, I guess.
That would be wonderful.
When we next see you. But thank you so much for taking the time to
Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome, and come again.
I always enjoyed, I'm an early morning person, so I always enjoyed coming to your in-person meetings. But yeah, hope to see you again soon, and certainly at district conference.
Thank you so much, Tracy. That was a wonderful presentation.